He may look cute and cuddly, but he has enough firepower to survive a colorful yet deadly fantasy zone. This is Sega Masters. Yes, we have another horizontal shooter on tap for today's episode. Last time we took a look at the dreadful TransBot, but to make up for that we have a title from the opposite end of the spectrum. In fact, this arcade port is the first entry in one of Sega's more iconic franchises of the 8-bit era, since it does something different with the genre. Fantasy Zone started out as an arcade title which borrowed heavily from the Williams classic Defender, but to help it stand out from the other shooters flooding the coin-op market, Sega opted for a cute cartoonish presentation instead of the traditional sci-fi setting, resulting in what is often referred to as the cute-em-up. The game also introduces us to Opa-Opa, a sentient egg-shaped ship with wings who served as one of Sega's earliest mascots. It's no surprise Fantasy Zone made its way to the Master System, becoming one of the console's first marquee titles, if you will. Basically, Opa-Opa is out to beat back the forces of the evil Menin Empire that's invading his fantasy world, and his mission spans 8 psychedelic stages, all of which freely scroll to the left or the right and even wrap around. Enemy creatures are swarming around, but you have twin guns and an unlimited supply of bombs to blast them, earning points while collecting the money each guy drops. Your main targets are the large enemy generators scattered throughout the level that take several shots to eliminate. Every so often a shop icon will appear, allowing you to access the parts shop to purchase upgrades with your money, such as better engines and wings for faster maneuverability, more powerful bombs, and cool special weapons including lasers and 7-way shots. Once you leave the store, you have the option to choose which of your upgrades to equip. However, many of the special weapons have time limits which begin as soon as you leave the screen, not giving you very long to enjoy your more potent offense. Once you destroy all of the generators, a gigantic boss creature will confront you for a one-on-one battle, and you need to dodge the enemy fire while targeting its weak spot. Land enough hits and the boss explodes into a big pile of cash you get to scoop up before proceeding to the next world. In the last stage, you have to fight all the bosses again in one long gauntlet before taking on the final challenge and learning who the true leader of the invaders are. This home version does a pretty good job of emulating the arcade original, even with a few expected shortcomings and omissions due to the console hardware. The graphics are a slight downgrade from the coin-op visuals and are compressed into a single horizontal row with no vertical scrolling, but everything is still vibrantly colored with some nicely designed far-out stages, as well as good details and animations for the characters. The bosses are especially well drawn and detailed, though the game switches to a plain single-colored background for the boss battles, possibly due to memory restrictions. Likewise, the music isn't quite as good as the cool background tunes from the arcade version, but are still pretty catchy and work for each setting. The somewhat ironic thing is this game's weird and cute atmosphere belies the fact that the difficulty level is quite brutal, especially with a number of issues that can really make this game an exercise in frustration. The first few levels aren't too bad, but soon enemies and projectiles start coming at you fast and furious, requiring some lightning-quick dodging and fancy shooting. Fortunately, the controls are simple enough and work well after some practice, though they can be tricky at times, especially if you change direction and have to deal with the shifting scrolling. The upgrade feature isn't perfect either. You can only equip your special weapon at the shop, which usually only appears at the beginning of each level, so odds are you'll burn through your weapon pretty quickly. If you purchase multiple weapons, the rare select icon may appear after you use one up, which lets you switch to your other arms, or you could buy and hold all 4 engines, which gives you unlimited weapon time. It would have been nice to arm your special weapon when you chose to, letting you save it for the bosses where they could really come in handy. Of course you die after just one hit from anything and lose all your upgrades you stockpiled as a result, even the ones you haven't used yet. Not to mention there's no continues once you lose your last life, forcing you to start from scratch after the big game over. Yet even with the extreme difficulty, Fantasy Zone still manages to be a worthwhile experience for the Master System with plenty of fun shooting action. The game manages to hook you with its charm and uniqueness, and it's addictive enough to keep you coming back for more, even with all the frustration. Granted, the Master System sequel does fix a number of issues, and more faithful versions of this game does exist on the TurboGrafx 16 and Saturn, but this first entry is still a very good choice for Sega shooter fans.